All right, and I'm gonna come back in with the traditional cowbell. All right, welcome everyone to the official Science and Stoke webinar number 2. I am your host, Rebecca Rusch, the founder of Rebecca's Giddy Up Challenge, and that's why you're here. We are less than 3.5 weeks away, which is really exciting. And I'm joined with Coach Tim Cusick that you met in the last Science and Stoke webinar. And I'm super excited. Today is all about kind of taking you to that midway point. I know last time you guys talked about some really good stuff with kind of preparing your route and getting ready. So now we're going to go to the next level. So let's go ahead, Tim, and go through the slides. So a reminder for all of you out there, this is an interactive session. We want to take your questions. We're here to answer your questions. So go ahead and use the Q&A box down below to ask your questions. You can type them in anytime. Tim and I are going to be monitoring as we go, and then we'll have a whole Q&A section in the end as well. So don't be shy. That's what we're here for, is to really empower you guys and give you all the tools you need for a great Giddy Up challenge. So as you know, Tim's the science, I'm the Stoke. He's smarter than I am. And he is, just a little background on Tim. He is founder of Basecamp Training, USAC certified coach, tons of years of training athletes from all levels, from world champions, Olympians, to, regular people, regular Joes. Not that Olympians aren't regular people, but Tim really has a specialty for helping everyone reach their maximum potential. And he is my coach, my personal coach. And the reason that we partnered together really was to bring you guys all into our team, so that we've got the science with Tim. You get access to basically his amazing brain. And then you also get access to me and my decades of experience as a professional athlete. And so the goal is that we are going to share everything we know to empower you. And I put my mission statement here, which is to continually inspire, empower, and challenge myself and others to be good. And there's two parts of that equation. I'm always out doing expeditions, challenging myself, but I want to bring that home and challenge you as well. And not only challenge you, but empower you. And that's why Science and Stoke is here. This is why Giddy Up Challenge is different, is that we take you along as teammates. We give you the tools to really execute an awesome adventure in your own backyard. So moving on from that, you guys all know that the Giddy Up Challenge was launched with a purposeful mission. I launched it last year. It was our first year, and for two reasons. One, I needed something to inspire myself and to get off the couch and to do something proactive for my own health and wellness. And I also wanted to ride with a purpose and feel like I was doing something good. And so that is how the Giddy Up Challenge was launched last year during COVID, in response to COVID. And it was so amazing that we're keeping it going. So this year, you guys know this, we're riding to challenge yourself, challenge me, challenge Tim. He's taking part too, but we're also really riding to protect the outdoor spaces, the natural environment that we all love and cherish and is so important to us. So these 6 groups that you see here through the Be Good Foundation, you're running for Giddy Up Challenge, are supporting these groups to keep more access for more people in the beautiful, great outdoors. And so thank you for being part of that. It's really exciting for me. And when you're sort of struggling in the middle of that challenge, you can think about that it's not just about you. It's actually a bigger community and a bigger purpose that we're riding and running for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Awesome. And so one of my core values is give equals get. So I have a few core values. Some of you guys might know them, but give equals get is a really important one to me. And so we're going to bribe you a little bit. We're going to give you some knowledge. We're going to give you some Stoke. And if you stay on to the end of this webinar, a couple of you are going to get some prizes. So we have 2 sets of Maxxis Rambler tires to give away. These are amazing gravel tires. They're the ones that I use for almost all of my gravel riding. And so if you stay on to the end, we're going to randomly draw 2 people to get a set of their very own Maxxis gravel tires to put on their gravel bike and maybe execute your challenge if you're doing it on gravel. So stay to the end, and 2 people are going to get a set of awesome tires. All right. So, what is Science in Stoke? You kind of know this. You already hopefully went to Science in Stoke #1, where Tim already went through kind of how to design your challenge, how to build your route, why it's important to start planning your route now to get into it, to, mentally commit to it. And so you already did that. If you're still working on your route, you're not sure yet, go back and watch Science in Stoke 1, because there's really easy kind of tools that Tim gave. I actually watched it, even though I was in Iceland. I watched it when I came home, about where do you start? Like, what do you do? I don't even know how to pick a hill. I don't know what to do. That's all in Science in Stoke 1, and kind of getting started. So you can always go back and refer to that. If you haven't planned your route yet, now's the time. Tonight we're in Science in Stoke 2. So now we're really going to start about, you've got your route, hopefully, or you're pretty close to it, and then organizing your plan. So how are you going to, what gear are you going to use? How's it going to work? How long is it going to take? A little bit more of the nitty gritty. And, both of us have years of experience in that. So that's what we're going to hone into tonight. And then the third one, we're gonna really get, as you get closer, your aid station, your nutrition, how to stay motivated, when it's raining and you're not feeling good. So tonight we're focusing on the midway, organizing, getting everything, controlling the controllables ahead of time. So that is where we're starting. I'm going to pass it to Tim. I think he's going to talk, or no, I'm going to talk a little bit about my choices for my challenge this year, second year of Giddy Up. So first year, I did an Everesting on my bike. I'd never done an Everest. I wanted to do a big, audacious goal that was scary enough for me to make me train. It scared me enough that I knew I couldn't go in cold turkey. And so that's what I did last year. I'm really proud of what I achieved. This year, I have some different goals. And I want to talk about this a little bit for some of those people who are maybe, I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to do an Everest. I do want to do Everest. I want to just break down my decision process so that as you're evaluating, you can find the best challenge that's right for you. And the reason there are a lot of different challenges is we want to meet everybody where they are. I want you to choose something hard that's maybe outside your comfort zone, but you don't have to kill yourself. It doesn't have to be that. And so there's multiple options: ride, run, inside, outside. We actually just added a 5th challenge level. So we've got the quarter Everest, the half Everest, 3/4, and full Everest elevation. We actually just added a 5th category that was choose your own elevation challenge. If the quarter Everest isn't for you, set a goal of 2,000 feet, 1,000 feet, 500 feet, whatever it is. So my goal, like I said, is to push you outside your comfort zone a little bit, empower you, challenge you, but pick something that works for your life. I all know that we're busy. We've got lives, we've got families. And so my challenge for this year, twofold. One, I've done the Everest on the bike. I know I can do it. And so I actually wanted to mix it up, and I wanted to take part in both the foot and the bike challenge, but find a way that I could do that that wasn't going to kill me. And so, as you know, we have 4 days to execute our challenge. So I'm going to first do on Friday a half Everest on the same hill that I did last year that Tim will go through. But then I'm also going to do a foot challenge because I'm actually expanding. I've signed up for an ultra running foot race this year, my first ever. And so I want to put in a little bit more time on my feet. And I also have a couple friends who want to do the hike run with me. And so I'm going to be out there with a couple friends going up our local ski hill together. It's kind of a hike because it's really, really steep. But I wanted to, challenge myself in a different way with the bike and the run together on separate days with rest days. But I also wanted to have the run hike version be sort of a community connection for me. And for all of you who know, Giddy Up Challenge was launched to connect communities, to connect all of us. And we're finding we can connect digitally in this way and really still be inspired. And so that's my reason. That's what my weekend's going to look like in 3.5 weeks from now. And the third reason I chose this challenge in this way is that I also want to be available to engage with all of you. So while you're doing your challenge, I'm going to be online. I'm going to be using the hashtag. I'm going to be live Instagramming to hopefully give you motivation when you're needing it most, and to kind of celebrate when you've achieved your challenge. So that's my challenge for the year. If you're not sure what you can do, evaluate what works, what's a bit of a push. And remember, you can change the category that you've signed up for as long as you do it 48 hours before we start the event, because we want to have you in the right category and the right challenge. But you've got a little bit of time. So now's the time, pick your route, decide, commit to it. And then we're going to show you a little bit of how my routes are going to look. And hopefully, my routes don't have to be yours, but Tim's going to give you some tips when you're thinking about your own planning and your own day.
Okay, great. So Rebecca has a big challenge. It's my job to get her ready for that challenge and help her achieve it. That really starts just as we talked about in session one, building her route challenges with her. Now, I've chosen, even though she's made the challenge kind of more unique and it doesn't fit into a nice little neat box anymore, we're still going to use the same information, the same targeting process we had. So now she's kind of taken one challenge for me as a coach and she's split it into two. So
I like to challenge you as a coach.
right,
So you challenge me and I'm challenging you.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you wish for, right? So that's great. And first thing, like any challenge, you really want to break it down to its parts and pieces. So I want to break this down to its parts. So I captured the climb URL of the Strava KOM, put it into everest.com or everesting.cc. And I built her system. Now, Everesting CC has a little bit of a limitation. It only does a half kind of climb. It has a 10K climb. But Rebecca's challenge here is a little bit different because she's doing half the giddy up. So I needed a way to figure it out. So the reality is by choosing the 10K climb, it's 8.4 laps. But Rebecca's going a little further. It's really 10.2 laps. So I've had to use the tool, and this is what you do, right? These are great tools. It gives me insight into each lap. I can use it to calculate lap speed. The rest means I do a little bit more math, but it doesn't really change our targeting process. As a matter of fact, it makes me want to make her go faster because she's doing a little less, right? Let's get her off the course a little quicker. So challenge
I spent that 35 minutes. Last year we had 40 minutes was my target time.
So I tweaked it up a little. See how observant you are. So I think we're going to go a little faster because I want to be legendary. If you guys have been playing with this, it changes that little badge that you get there. I love it. So the reality is, though, that same plan works, right? So I've broken it down to its element. I've taken her bike challenge. I built it around the 10K, but she's actually going a little further. So I know I need to add 2 more laps. I can do that math very simple. And I course very simply, and then I'm using that as the basis of her bike targeting. I think what's important to note is you can use the same mechanism in running. So I went and captured a similar, it turns out there's actually a slightly different KOM than the one I captured on this climb, but I went out and captured a similar one just to begin my mental planning. And now I'm going to hone this down with Rebecca over the next week or so. And I said, okay, how will this run play out basically on the distance that she wants to do? Now I'm going to give you a clue, right? You can use, like if you're searching for your KOMs in running on Strava, there's actually, if you look up top under search KOMs, it says cycling, running. Choose running, they'll get much easier to follow. Find your KOM and put it into everesting.cc and it'll work just the same. But understand that when you run, the GPS isn't very accurate. You can be off. Run up a ski mountain like this versus like this, and the GPS isn't sensitive enough to know those differences. It's going to get a little gray. So if you've never done that climb, and if you're not really sure of the elevation game in running, it's more important that you add a little extra. Because you hate to be 50 feet short, 100 feet short when you were said and done because of the GPS quality. So if you're going to run it, add a little extra, another quarter climb, another half lap, depends what you're doing, but doubly ensure you hit your climb distance.
Tim, I did that for the cycling too. Like said, I need to do 21 3/4 laps. I did 22, like just to make sure. And that was on the bike. And also, this is important as you guys try to do the math and do the calculator. The reason it's important is because I hate math. I'm not good at math. But it's like you start to wrap your head around, okay, I'm going to be out there this many hours. Even if I only stop 10 minutes per time, this is what it's going to take. And knowledge is power. So don't let the numbers scare you, but you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be out 24 hours or 10 hours or 6 hours. And for any of your run or bike, please go out and ride or hike your hill and get your own GPS file on it. One, familiarize yourself, go do the hill as a workout, but also record it so that oh, I need to go up to that light pole or that fence sign or whatever to hit this elevation, because technology is not perfect, but if you go actually do it with your body, that is actually pretty reliable. So, but yeah, always throw in a few extra feet just to make sure you hit your goal.
That's a great point. GPS is not as everybody thinks GPS is really accurate, but the government doesn't want it to be really accurate because they don't want you to smart bomb your neighbor with accuracy. So there's always a little bit of echo in GPS. So just be sure. It's always best to get a GPS file and validate it against a land file. Now, just to say one quick thing as I go on to my training slides. If you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. It's kind of hard to track the chat and the Q&A at the same time. So if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the Q&A.
Yeah, so Austin, who's on our team, our executive director of Be Good Foundation. So Austin, put your Q&A in the Q&A. He's in the
right. Chatting is fine.
I'm calling you out. But he asked, are you basing Rebecca's target on the Strava KOM or QOM data? Like, where did you get this climb time? Because I've climbed up Baldy. I know the route that I'm doing. And, or I guess even on the ride, what are you basing my climbing time on?
So like I showed people in Science and Stoke 1, look at your own history if you have it. There's no better indicator of your performance than your performance, right? Your historical performance. So I always start with that. 2, then I do look at other people on the same climb. 3, then you got to think about how fit am I? I mean, it's different what you could do at once versus a bunch of times, right? So you have to adjust. And I think that's why these tools are so powerful, because the sliders allow you to run performance scenarios. Yeah. And you should run at least 4 or 5 performance scenarios, because whatever plan you have right now probably won't be the one that ends up being executed, right? So
I'm going to tell you, Tim, when we picked Trail Creek, and I've climbed that climb, I do intervals on the climb. It's the start of Private Idaho. I've done that climb. It's like my main climb. And my best time on it was 29 minutes and change. The QOM is 28. I don't have the QOM. It's a minute or so less. And Tim and I, when we made my plan for last year, he's like, I want you to shoot for 40-minute uphill climbing laps. And I was like, 40 minutes? I'm like, can go 29 minutes. But by the middle and the end, I was like, 40 minutes was really hard to attain. And that was 11 minutes slower than what my normal climbing, my QOM, my personal PR up there is. So do not underestimate how slowly you want to go. And so the first few laps, I'm like, 40 minutes, and I was a little bit faster, which is fine. But, take that into consideration that we're talking about an endurance event. No matter what elevation you're choosing, you're in it for the long haul. And so pacing is really important. And so to be consistent, instead of starting fast and finishing slow, or it's like, start here and maintain consistency the rest of the time around. So I thought 40 minutes was actually really kind of slacking, but Tim was exactly right. That's why he's the science behind all of this.
Ooh,
it was almost to the T, exactly 40 minutes is what I averaged every lap.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. When you talk, and for everybody listening, Rebecca's a multi-time world champion, crazy. talented endurance racer, we're all going to struggle over this time period. So you have to have those scenarios. Put your absolute worst case scenario, put your absolute best case scenario, put your middle ground target, and just know it's going to be somewhere in that range. Hopefully we'll have you prepared to be absolute best, but you need to be prepared for absolute worst. Now, when it comes to mapping these out, this is a question I often get. The Strava data on the elevation is really what you want to use, because Strava is a terrain-based map. So if you're looking at that QOM, that KOM, and I don't care if it's QOM, KOM, but you want the tracked, the GPS track, that is terrain-based, meaning it's not trusting a GPS reading. It is actually doing it off a map, like a terrain-based map. That can still actually be slightly inaccurate because you don't know the zigzag of things, but the reality is the performance will be measured against that Strava elevation. So it's a true match. What you perform when you load it, it will show that segment time and time again and use that data.
So Tim, B asks, our friend B, hi B, how's it going? She asked, do we trust the rep number from calculator or Garmin for total elevation game? I'm finding different devices record different elevations, Garmin versus InReach. What do I do?
You always trust the Strava data. That's what I was answering B's question right there in a sneaky kind of way, right? You trust the Strava data. So if Strava says 9.4 laps, do 9.6 laps, put it in the bank, right? You always want to do a little extra just to double check and be sure. GPS data can be really wrong. Different devices use different formats of triangulation, pressure, barometric pressure, this and that. And like I say, there literally is built-in echo into GPS to not make it 100% accurate. So you're fighting against all that. Just use the Strava data for accuracy.
Yep. And I record on various devices, phone, you've got watches, you've got, your Garmin. So that stuff's all really cool. Record in multiple ways, go out and do the route yourself and time it. And then Austin, I'm going to say, he asked also, can you speak on recommending eating, drinking calories per hour?
I promise you, I will get to everybody's question.
Yeah, and so I'm going to say, Austin, I'm going to push that onto Science and Stoke number 3. We're actually going to cover that there. So,
and I'm actually going to give you a little nutrition homework though today to get you.
Oh, nice. Okay, go for it, Tim.
So the 3 things we've been working on training-wise, if you watch Science and Stoke 1, and for those of you who don't know, and I'm going to show you at the end of this, I've been posting short Monday morning weekly training reviews on the Giddy Up training support page, little videos of me just walking through somebody's example. And B, I used you as an example this morning, just giving high level insight, keeping you moving forward and answering some general questions. But in that plan, understand we're really trying to develop 3 things. Aerobic fitness. For 98% of the efforts you're going to be making during your challenge, you're going to be making energy aerobically. And you could talk about fat burning, you could talk about the whole keto direction and all that great stuff. And it's true. Your main fuel is going to be fats. You're going to burn a fair amount of carbs in an event. You're going to burn everything in an event like this, but your aerobic fitness is going to be the driver. And that's why you see some higher volume work and some intensive aerobic work. You're seeing a fair amount of tempo, high tempo, sweet spot, things like that. The second need we have is muscular endurance. We need to get that muscle, and muscular endurance is really its ability to resist fatigue, to contract and expand more times than it was possible before you started improving that muscular endurance, before fatigue occurs. But the third one we need to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to mention it today because if you watched my video this morning, I gave you something I want you to work on. I want to make sure I say it tonight and be redundant. Because I will tell you the number one reason you might not get your 9.4 laps or 8.4 or 22 laps or whatever your number is, the number one reason you will fail, if you were to fail, is your nutrition. If you've done the training, you'll have enough fitness to accomplish your goal, but you still need to fuel the engine appropriately to be able to then do it all in one day, do it all in that window. We're going to talk a lot about that in Science and Stoke 3, but I'm going to give you a little homework. So those are the 3 things we've been building, focused, and working on. So let me just say, hopefully you're following the plan. The plan we are going into, we just had a nice couple of rest days, right? If you watched my video this morning, it probably took you a little bit to get started this weekend as, the work got harder again after the rest. Like I said, what happens when we rest, even 2 to 3 days, our body, our endocrine system changes. We tend to go through some minor changes in how we produce hormones and how things are working in our body. And as we return to exercise, it takes a couple of days for all those things to just get up and rolling again. This upcoming, yes, Rebecca is.
I'm raising my hand.
Yeah, that is Rebecca. I've given Rebecca the example. It's like pushing my old college car down the hill to get it jump started. It only had 2 really working gears and it was all rusted out and its battery was always dead. My friends would have to come down and push down the hill. And then you pop the clutch and it would sort of start, but stall back out. So then they'd have to run up to the car and push it again. And then after 2 or 3 tries, it'd start up and away I'd go. That's Rebecca coming back after rest. But that's what
okay. Thank you for saying I'm like the old car that you could never.
No. I mean, like new sports model with a bad starter.
I love it. No, it just needs a kickstart. No, you're exactly right. And for those of you who are listening who maybe aren't in the official training program, the base camp training program, don't fret. Stay with us. We've got Max's tires at the end. And I actually think there's a lot of knowledge that you'll absorb. So don't tune out. Even if you're not in the training program this year, it's okay. All this stuff this Tim is talking about is knowledge that you can implement in your training and it's going to help you perform better. So I did just kind of want to give a nod to that. For those of you in the training program, awesome. For those of you in the not, you might have a little FOMO, but that's what we're here for, is to continue empowering you. So hang in there, and we're going to have a lot more stuff, but don't zone out just because this is training talk, because this is all applies to everybody. This, Tim has a slide up, this is a progression for everyone: aerobic fitness, muscular endurance, and performance nutrition. So there's something here for everybody.
If you're training on your own, these are the things you're focusing on. And these are the things in our training plan also. So let's talk this nutrition point, right? Here's your nutrition homework. So you've got your training plan if you're in the training plan. And this is great if you're not in our training plan. I'm still going to give you the same advice because it will be the difference maker, right?
Is this someone throwing up or are they just breathing hard, Tim?
They're really tired and exhausted, but this person has some, let's just call it abdominal pain and leave it at that.
Okay.
This is my GI victim and this is my really tired victim.
I was trying to figure out what those what that was happening there. Okay, thank you.
Neither of them are you. You will be left out of this example. So here's your gut training, right? The biggest thing that shocks people when they really get into nutrition, and I mean, get away from kind of the hype of nutrition and the BS and I can not eat and do all these performances or all that other stuff, right? All that, there's so much baloney in nutrition and stuff like that out there. You just put it aside. The reality is, to accomplish your challenge, you're going to need to consume about 200 to 300 calories an hour. Of those calories, 60 to 70% are going to be carbs, not fats, not proteins. The other 30 to 40%, that could be fats and proteins, right? Probably even a little balance of both, just equal amount. But the main fuel, even though you're making energy aerobically, the main fuel that your body's going to need is those carbs. What shocks people, and actually Rebecca and I went through this 2 years ago in the ITI, where I remember talking to you, I'm like, so what are you eating in every hour? And it was about 100 calories, I think, or 150 calories. I'm like, we need, if that, we need more, right? We got it. She was always pretty good. Obviously, as a naturally gifted, amazing endurance athlete, she could press through. She doesn't maybe need the calories as much, but you will. If you can train your body to consume between 200 and 300 calories, and I'm kind of using an average person, let's say somewhere between 140 and 160 pounds, 135, 165 pounds, in that kind of mid-range of weight. So if you're a little lighter than that, adjust down a little. If you're heavier, you can adjust up a little. Do you know how hard it is to eat 200 to 300 calories? Rebecca can tell you. It ain't easy. So what I want you to do now, at least 3 times a week on your harder workouts, try to eat at least 200 calories an hour. If you're under 135, lighten it up a little. If you're over 165, maybe a little more, but make that your target. Because what we want to do is train your gut.
Yeah.
We want to get your gut used to exercising. And by gut, I mean your ability to digest and digest calories and absorb macronutrients. So we want to train that just like anything else. The difference it will make will surprise you.
It's insane, Tim. When you told me before Alaska, you're like, and the goal there, because it's a cold environment, we actually calculated I need to try to consume 400 calories an hour, which is not what you guys need to do. That's because it's minus 40-degree temperatures and stuff like that. But like we did food training and it was so hard for me. And Tim kept saying, you're training your gut to absorb and get the nutrients. So you might think, oh, no problem, I'll eat 200 calories an hour on event day. You won't if you don't practice it, because you'll be that guy holding his stomach, because your body isn't actually used to it. So if you go on a normal ride, you throw a goo in your back pocket and one water bottle, and that's what your body's trained to do, that is what your body will do on event day. And if you overload it with more, your body's going to say, we didn't train for this. And so it's actually really important to train to eat. And for those of you who are like, yeah, but I ride my bike so I stay slim and I want to be fit and all that, the eating while training isn't going to make you fat or out of shape or anything else. It's actually going to train your body to consume and use the calories that you put into it and to use the fuel. And so, I mean, I cannot stress this enough. Like Tim said, this is where people fail, is in nutrition. They do all the training. They have the most watts per kilo. They do I see it time and time again in Leadville and other races, but they don't know how to fuel properly during the event, or they know how, but they haven't actually practiced it in practice. And so their body is not ready for it. You're also going to find what packages you can open with your teeth when you're tired, or what doesn't taste good when you're really tired, or do you crave this or that or the other. So you're also going to learn your food preferences and your food tolerances of what just will not work for you. And so please practice this. I think this is the holy grail, really, to unlock a great performance.
I agree. And if you're under this number, under 200, 300, you're going to become this person. Now, let's talk about what happens if you take in too many carbs too quickly, the wrong carbs, or too many calories, right? So what is GI? So here's the 2-second kind of short version. When you take carbs into your body and it gets into your intestines and your lower intestines specifically, carbs to be digested and eventually utilized bind with water. So they bring water into your gut. So when you bring carbs into your gut, high carb, particularly the worst case scenario can be things like liquid fuels, unless you're really ready for it, because you take in a high dose of carbs, a high dose of liquid, then your body brings in more water into your gut to help break down that sudden dose of carbohydrates. That's what GI is. That's what gives you that feeling. You've brought too much water because you've overdosed the carbs too quickly, like one big sudden burst, or too matched with water already. That's why when you do these events, liquid fuels and some of these ultra high carb drinks, be really careful with those, because unless you're really experienced in how to use them, they can get you in trouble. So it's a Goldilocks strategy, as we'll talk about in session 3, not too many, not too few. So remember your goal, 200 calories or a little bit more over these next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 times a week, practice that. 60 to 70% is carbs. Try no liquid fuel, no heavy carb drinks. Here's a trick. Eat complex to simple, or a simple way of saying it, hard to soft. So if I had a bar, some goo cubes, and a goo gel, I eat the bar early in the ride, right? Because it's hard. I eat the cubes in the middle because it's kind of soft, but not totally soft. And then I take the gel in the end because it's soft. That will directly relates to the complexity of the carbs within the product. So you have long chain carbs in your harder food, and you want that early. You want the digestion to be a little slower, a little more controlled. Then as you begin to fatigue, those cubes will be great because you're breaking them, you're digesting them quicker, they're entering your system faster, they're putting a little stronger insulin response into your mechanisms. And by the end of the day, you just want to like get gels, like just drink them, right? Because you just want to get it in there as fast as you can. So just remember that complex to simple or hard to soft, really good process. Test what you think will work. And Rebecca just gave a great point. I see so many people at the last minute are like, wow, I just saw this super cool drink and I'm going to use it. And then I ended up laying on the side of the road, hugging my gut for an hour. Nothing new. Test everything, know in advance that you can consume it and it works for you. And that's what I want you to use this training for. So good item there. Cycle 2, some good tough work in about the first 10 days, but we are about 3.5 weeks out. You're going to start seeing tapering down. So really, if you ask me with this, we're going to finish with a little build. We're going to push in for about another 7 to 10 days. Then we're going to start working on sharpening the saw. Right now, we're just building it big. We're going to get sharp. We're going to begin to layer off some of the fatigue that you're feeling and other stuff. We're going to start working on your performance prep. And this is where you have the expert to guide you. And it's between this session and the rest, she's going to really take you through it. Now, one question I did receive is about how to deal with if you have a lot of life stress right now and this is too much work, even when you're cutting it down to the core, take an extra full day off.
Yeah.
It's magic, right? You got to give your body some time to downregulate, to relax a little, and still adding an hour of exercise stress every day. And you always feel like you're trying to make up. You're just going to make that overall stress debt. If you guys saw my stress debt post, you're going to make that stress debt higher. So just like, wow, I'm going to take a day or two off and I'm just going to let my body catch up. You're not going to lose fitness versus what's happening to you now because all you're doing, right, is stressing. So take a day off, catch up a little with life, take 2 days off if you have to, and get caught up and remove some of the stress. So that's what I would do, Jennifer. In your training, I think you'll find it will be more refreshing. It'll let you get back to training. What you're doing now is just grinding yourself down a little more. Take a day or two off, try to get ahead of it, then get back to what you can do. All right, I'm going to turn it back to Rebecca to go over her equipment and plan and how to be prepared.
Thank you, Tim. That was so amazing. I mean, there were so many good points in there of like, people don't think about eating as training. And yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. It's taken me 3 or 4 years to figure out how to eat in a cold environment like the Iditarod. It's been a very ongoing process. And I thought I had my food dialed, and the environment changed it. So if you're either in a really hot environment or a really cold environment, it's always a little bit different. And so, yeah, start practicing that now, so that you don't have big surprises on event day. And I also really like what you talked about with life stress. And, I adapted my goals partially because, and everyone says, oh, what's the most amount I can do? The Everest, I got to do the maximum amount. I adapted my goals, and it's not like feeling like I'm a failure or downgrading or anything. I adapted them based on where I am right now. And I've done a lot of riding. I'm really tired. I said to Coach Tim, I'm really tired. And so we adapted a goal that's really awesome for me. I'm actually excited about it. I'm nervous about it, but I'm not terrified of like, oh my gosh, it's going to me to do the training for the full Everest, because I just wasn't there this year. And I also get to add the run element in. So if you're thinking about, your life stress and how to figure it out, I mean, I still want you guys to push yourself. Choose a challenge is hard. That's the whole point of this. If you knew that you could do it, then it's not holding you accountable. Like I said, when I launched Giddy Up, I chose something that was really audacious, that scared me enough. So you want to be a little bit scared. And here's the deal. If you set out to do a half Everest and you end up not quite making that goal, the biggest failure is that you have committed to something, you did training, you showed up, you got out there, you raised money for protecting public lands and outdoor spaces, and you connected with a community. And so there is no failure here. So I'd say set a goal that's hard, but that is not totally unrealistic for you. And yeah, life stress is real. It's real. It's why though, actually, I feel so strongly that we have better human performance at work and in our home life when we go out and exercise and take care of ourselves. And it's emotional wellness, it's physical wellness, but this is super important. So as much as you can in your life, prioritizing your workouts, because you will come back to your family, your work, your other commitments, with a little more productivity and a better frame of mind. So we'll go on to now more controlling your equipment. And I think I told you guys, one of my things that I like to do, people always ask me, how can you do these big, audacious things? How can you do this stuff? And I'm a Virgo, I'm kind of type A. And so it's what I call controlling the controllables. And so I get a little bit nerdy before I go into an event. Right now is the sweet spot where you guys are a few weeks out, to really look at your equipment and what are the tools that are going to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And so this is the point where you start going through the whole reason you do the calculation of how many hours you think it's going to take, this, that, and the other, is to wrap your head around, okay, I'll plan my nutrition, I'll plan my equipment, I'll plan all this stuff so that when you get out there on event day or event weekend, you know that you showed up trained, prepared, and you know that nothing's going to go as planned, but at least the stuff that you could control, you controlled. So you know that your bike is in good working order, you know that you've got a nutrition plan, you know you've got your gear organized. And believe me, it will take off so much emotional stress if you put in a little bit of time now making sure your gear and your equipment is ready to go. So I'm just going to do a little example here of what I'm going to use for my ride. I'm doing my ride on gravel, on dirt, on a hill that I really love. And I chose the hill because I love the hill. I love it. I did it 21 times last year and I'm still not tired of it. It's beautiful. There's not a lot of traffic on it. It's got sort of an emotional attachment for me because it's where I launched my first race. So I'm riding a gravel bike. If you're going for speed and records, pavement is what most people will choose. But yeah, you can do this challenge on any sort of bike, mountain bike, fat bike, whatever you want. I'm riding the Live Devote, same bike. No, this is new bike. I didn't ride this bike last year on the Giddy Up Challenge. And I use SRAM ETAP Axis drivetrain. So that's a 1x chain ring, an adaptation that I made for this challenge is pretty specific because it's an uphill climbing challenge. So look at your gear, think about the fact that you're going uphill over and over again. And actually, my front chainring, I went down, I think 2 sizes, maybe 3. I went to the smallest front chainring that would fit on my gravel bike, because the speed was not about the downhill and having big gears. It was actually about having plenty of climbing gears. So if you need to gear down for the challenge, again, because it's endurance, you're going to be doing multiple laps on the same hill. So the gearing that you might like for each kind of everyday riding, you might want to go down, think about considering going down so that you have enough climbing gears to choose from. Nobody ever said, I didn't have a small enough gear for that climb. Nobody ever said that ever in a climbing challenge. So look at your gear, look at the gearing on your bike, think about if that's appropriate for your climb. I ran, and the choices I made, here's why I made these choices. I made them for endurance and I made them for comfort. So if you look at your gear and you go, I'm going in for the long haul, I want to be comfortable and I want to be able to pedal the whole time. So if you evaluate your gear based on that, that's what I did. And so the wheels I chose were wide, comfortable wheels. The tires I chose, I ran 50C tires, which are very big. Because the descent that I chose is quite technical. It's bumpy, there's washboards, and I knew I actually got more fatigue on the descent than I did on the ascent, and my arms are tired. And so think about the comfort of your equipment and the safety, of knowing you want to feel solid and comfortable. Someone else who was doing the same climb that I did at the same time rode a mountain bike because they wanted front suspension for the descent. And I don't know that it slowed him down at all. So choose what's comfortable for you that you know is going to work, that you can finish. So I did wider tires. Tire pressure is a really big deal. Your saddle needs to be really comfortable. My handlebar, the NV Gravel handlebar, is actually a real flared handlebar. I wrapped it with extra gel bar fat underneath it, double wrap on the bars, just because also your hands on the bars for that long, and especially descending, I didn't want to get fatigued that way and lose control. So look at your equipment, look at your bike. I also have, you can see on this picture, the bike tube, I've got what I call my snack bar that's on the top tube there. That's a Revel 8 Designs mag tank, and it's a magnetic opening, and that's where I have really easy access to my snacks. So think about, while you're riding on this challenge, you may not want to wear a hydration pack with your food like on your back. You actually want it right in your cockpit, accessible to you. You may think about wearing a hydration pack if reaching down for bottles is too hard and you want to just put a tube in your mouth. So think about what you're going to use that's going to be when you're tired. What's the easiest way for you to get your nutrition in and feel comfortable on your bike? So that's my setup. We'll go ahead and so I start with the bike. Or the running shoes or that. We'll get to that in a minute. And then I look at the other stuff, which is how are you recording your ride, the electronics, are you riding with music? Do you need lights? And line that all out, practice with it, see where it's going to go on your handlebar, load the route in, do this stuff ahead of time so that you're not 5 minutes before you're the day before, you're not actually really scrambling. That causes so much emotional stress. So I use the Edge 1030. Somebody asked about, if you're doing something really long, like how long does that battery last? What are you going to do? So that's a really good question, because you want your stuff to last. And so some things that I do with all of my technology is I put it in low battery mode. I turn off Bluetooth if Bluetooth is not needed. With the Edge 1030, low battery mode there is actually really awesome because the screen goes black. If you're not, you can touch it and wake up the screen at any time, but otherwise it goes black right away. And the battery will last for a really long time if you do that. And you can turn off all the, virtual partner and all those other things that you don't really want to know about while you're doing your ride. So go into your technology, turn off all the things you don't need. If you are finding you're going to need to have an external battery source for you, if you're not able to charge, in between or anything like that, or your device won't last that long. I've always got, in your aid station or your rest stop, have a little satellite, a little battery puck that you can, and the Garmin Edge 1030, you can actually be riding with that while it's charging on your handlebar. So yeah, make sure you know how long. I think typically if you don't turn all the things off and you don't do battery conserve mode, I think the new Edge 1030 Plus, it's got like 20 hours of runtime. So make sure you know your device, figure it out. The last thing you want to do is get 3/4 of the way through and be like, I've got 2% battery. Like, oh my gosh. But just in case, keep an eye on that, and have an external source that you can like strap on or tuck in or something while you're riding. One screen that I really like to bring up for challenges like this, so you can change your Edge 1030 or any of your screen, you can change to what's showing. And I actually like to have the battery amount showing so that I'm not panicked getting a low battery message. I know, oh, I've got 80% battery. I'm so good. So yeah, play with your screens, because those are really nice. That's nice information to have, of like when sunrise is, when sunset is, how much battery power you have left, the temperature. Like those are all really good things to pull up on your screen that most devices will do, that kind of help you, like I said, control the controllables. You're like, oh, the temperature's dropping. I can see that. I should grab a jacket for the next lap. So just kind of try harder, or try smarter, not harder. And your technology will really help you with that. Headphones, I sometimes use, I sometimes don't. I save that kind of stuff for when I really need motivation. But otherwise, I really like listening to my tires, my breathing, my bike. I do math in my head. I talk to myself. I sing to myself. So it's nice to have music as a, if needed tool. If you are outside though, please be safe. Keep your left earbud out or keep an earbud out so that you can hear if you're on an open road or there's traffic or anything like that. So this picture here though, is just, that's not what I'm using for the Giddy Up Challenge this year, but this is an example of how I plan my gear. So this is my pool table in my basement. And for every big ride, big expedition I'm doing, I do the same process of how many hours, how many calories per hour, what's the weather, what do I need, how am I going to carry it? Like I lay it all out like this. What socks do I want to wear? Do I need extra socks? I lay it all out like this. I edit it down because obviously you want to be as light as possible and as efficient as possible, but I lay out my bike tools. I lay out everything where I can see it. And then I edit down and then I package it all up and put it in. And so it's kind of like, it's really nice for you to know and have a visual to go, oh, my med kit's got this in it. Instead of like, I wonder what's in my seat bag. Do I still have a tube in there? Do I still have, a lot of us don't open those things up frequently. So spread your stuff out. If you've got a pool table, that's a great thing. But do it now and then start editing down and really making your decisions on, I want this pair of socks, this pair of gloves, this hydration pack, this nutrition, and you can thank me for it later. It seems kind of ridiculous, but it's actually a really cool process of controlling the controllables. So that's kind of my process. All right, next slide. On my body, and I'll just go through real quickly, helmet, glasses, dark and clear lenses, what jerseys are really comfortable, what sports bra you want to wear, layers for wind and cold, sunscreen, chamois butter, a watch, the Garmin Phoenix I wear as a backup. And I also just kind of like to know what time it is. What time of day is it? I'm wearing the Live shoes. And so go through your stuff, lay it all out like that last picture that I just did. And, I always overestimate. And then, like I said, I edit it down and really choose the perfect thing. So start practicing now. Like, which shorts do you really want to wear all day on your attempt? Or which shoes do you really want to wear all day? And think about your touch points. So my shoes, for example, on really endurance events, often I wear a little bit larger size shoes. I've got an insole in there because people's feet swell when they have been going all day. So practice with this stuff. Make sure you have your favorite of everything, and then start training with that stuff so that it's really familiar come event day. Okay. What's in the car? So we'll go the last Science in Stoke 3, we'll go kind of in deep into the webinar. So I kind of break it into the equipment that you're focusing on right now is the stuff that you'll have during your ride or your run. So really hone in your shoes, your shorts, the clothing that you're going to wear, the jacket that you love, the hydration pack, which water bottles you like. Really hone in the stuff that you're using for during your ride. But then the next phase, once you got that dialed, that we'll go into a little bit later, is what's in your transition area. What are the what ifs? And the beauty of doing a hill climb is you're going to be going up and down the same thing multiple times. And so you can set up your car, a tent, a little cooler at the bottom of the hill, whatever it is that's going to have some extra stuff for you in case it rains, in case you get hungry, in case you need to call your mother, whatever it is. You've got all that stuff in your car, extra set of wheels. I mean, you've got the beauty of being able to have kind of like I said, an aid station rest area. So you don't have to have all that dialed in just yet. But once you've got your on the bike, on the challenge, on the run equipment dialed, the next layer is like, what is my support look like? What does my aid station look like? So as you edit down that pile of stuff that's on the bike, on the run, the extras are all things that are going to go into your what if, in the car. What if this happens, that happens? And then food, nutrition, we already talked about, a variety of what works on the bike, but then also those things that are like basically your comfort food, the things that make you feel happy, even if you're not happy. All right, next slide. So running. So a little bit, as you guys know, I'm going to do, actually it's hiking. The hill is so steep. I'm not going to be running it. I'm going to be hiking it. And I'm using the Ultra Lone Peak, same Garmin Phoenix 6S, Velocious tights and tops, same glasses. I don't think I'll need light and dark lenses for this one because I'll be during the day. I am taking hiking poles, and this is something to consider if you're on foot and you've chosen a really steep challenge. I'm mostly a cyclist, so I haven't put a ton of, I started my uh, sports career as a runner, but I haven't put a ton of time in yet this year on my feet. And so I know from adventure racing experience, the downhill is the most painful. And on a really steep hill, having hiking poles is often really nice to get that extra push from your hands to get a little extra energy. And the hiking poles I'm using, they're carbon fiber. They weigh like 2 ounces. They're nothing. I can put them in a pack if I don't want to use them. But I've practiced with those before during adventure races, and I really like them. So I will use hiking poles. So it's something to consider on your hill, how steep it is. You know, if it's not that steep of a hill, then you might not need them. But for me, I think that is going to be something that, since I don't have a ton of time on my legs running hiking, I think the poles are actually going to be pretty nice for me. Obviously mesh hat, visor, sunscreen, the same basics. And at your finish line, that next slide, this is something also to think about what's in your aid station, your recovery drink, your celebratory drink. Like I said, we are going to all be online with hashtag Giddy Up For Good, and engaging with you this weekend. The whole point of this is that we're in a team, we're doing it together. And I had so many people last year. I was really surprised by a digital worldwide event that all these people were like, I really felt like we were with you, like we were connected, we were part of something. And so we are all gonna drink. I have a protocol that I always do, I've done it for years, is I drink my goo recovery drink first, and then I go to the adult beverage. So hopefully we're all going to be toasting one of each of those online, digitally, on Instagram Live or wherever else over the weekend. All right, recovery setup. And Tim, you want to bring people in. I told you guys the whole reason this is different than other events that you might have seen online is our goal is to bring you along with us and to empower you, to give you the education to really crush it. Everything from loading your Garmin to planning your route to planning your nutrition, we want to teach you. And so please go on. If you haven't been on the training support page, Science in Stoke, there is so much here, including these webinars, but also all this other stuff. Tim is putting weekly articles up on nutrition, on gear, on training. You get a digest that's sent out to you. So if you haven't gone in there, go ahead in and educate yourself. Tim, do you want to talk about this at all?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's maybe make it this simple. So if you go into the Science in Stoke, what you'll find is always the last 3 communications are sitting up here in the latest. So you see the last 3 weeks of reviews right up top here. They're short little videos. I think they're about 10 minutes each, can support, but you can also scroll down and look through all different types of support levels information that's in here. You might notice they're categorized, like here's the Science in Stoke historical webinars, motivation, inspiration, training, and nutrition. If you click them, it actually just gives you the blog posts, these little short video articles and vlogs and on those topics. So it's an excellent resource page. I see so many great questions. There's a lot of great information. And while the Giddy Up is live, you should definitely get in there and take advantage of it, because Rebecca and I and our respective teams have prepared it for you. And it'd be great to see if you can consume it and continue to learn and improve your odds of success in your big challenge.
Yeah, everything you need is there. Decades and decades, maybe, I don't know, a century of education and experience, like trial by failure, is what this stuff is compiled of, so that you don't have to make the same mistakes that Tim and I have made along the way. All right, what's next? Okay, so Science in Stoke number 3, here's some upcoming events. And remember, we've got Max's tires to give away, so hang in there. But Science and Stoke number 3, Monday, May 24th. You can register to get a reminder, and we'll really hone into your aid station, your nutrition, what to do when you're flagging in the middle of it and you want to stop and you feel like stopping and you want to go get a pizza and a beer. So that'll be Science and Stoke number 3 coming up May 24th, right before your challenge. Don't wait until then, though, to do some of this planning. Like I said, thinking about your gear, and thinking about your bike and going out and practicing your nutrition and getting on the hill that you've planned to climb. All right, and another reminder, so we're bringing in some special guests, which is really cool. And so this Wednesday, live on Instagram Live, 5 p.m. Mountain Time, we have 2 really amazing ultra runners. Hillary Allen, who has just written a book called Out and Back, and it's about basically having a really hard setback and coming back. And what's, sort of interesting right now, and it's not great, but Hillary's injured right now, and she actually was going to step out of the webinar. She said, I'm not sure I can do it. I said, no, please join, because injury is part of it, and her book especially talks about coming back from some of these challenges. So Hillary's an amazing ultra runner. She's going to share some of her tips. So even if you're riding, I think there's relevant endurance information here with both of these ultra runners. And Stephanie Howe is also an ultra runner, new mom, so like with a really tiny baby, and she trained through her pregnancy, and so she's got a lot of cool stuff about talking about being an athlete, juggling a full-time job, and being a mom. She works for Protect Our Winters. So that is this Wednesday coming up. We'll take Q&A there as well, so I hope you can join us. And then what do we have next, Tim? Oh, we also have, okay, this is great. Refer a friend. So if you get a friend to sign up for a Giddy Up Challenge, all they have to do is put your name. When they sign up, there's a little spot to put your name. So they drop your name in, and then you are eligible to win a bunch of goodies, including $100 Velocious gift card, Goo recovery package, some mirror drinkware, and an entry into Rebecca's private Idaho remote. So refer a friend, bring them along. It's a lot more fun to do this with somebody on the same hill. That picture there, Caroline and I last year were going up and down the same hill, and it was so much fun to just like see her going by, I'm going by, and like it was pretty cool. So see if you can refer a friend, and you could win something from it, win some good stuff. And now we will jump into Q&A and answer any questions we haven't answered right after this. Stay with us, because we're doing that Max's tire giveaway, 2 sets of Max's Ramblers. So I can see from the numbers you're all still here, which is awesome. So Tim, let's jump into the Q&A, and we'll just tag team them. So you want to start? Grab one that you like.
Yeah, let's just start from the top down. Austin's you kind of answered, but his question is, how do you power your Garmin recording device for the full duration of a crazy long run ride? Everything Rebecca said is right. You got to get it into battery save mode, and battery save mode will turn off your screen, other things. Get used to using that, because it'll freak you out at first. You're like, oh, my Garmin's not working. It's working. And then you end up keep touching it just to turn it back on to be sure. Have a backup battery system. I think that's so important, that you have the ability to rapid charge your device as best you can, because as Rebecca said, you could do it on your bike, and that is a great way to do it. I know for me, I'll recharge on lap 7 and lap 21. I'm kind of making that up, but the specific numbers, the point is true. I haven't looked at it exactly when. I'll know in my mind what laps will be my battery recharge and when I want to get that recharged. At any time I stop at my little station, I'm recharging that battery. This first thing I'll do is plug in my Garmin, and even if I'm there for 8 minutes, that's still 8 minutes of charge, which will extend the life. So it's
don't forget it. See, like for me, I would never do that, because I would be afraid I would ride away without my Garmin. So make sure whatever you choose, there's not one way to do it. Choose what works for you, because I would totally leave the Garmin charging and go away. So the next thing I might say is have 2 recording things, put it on your phone or whatever, just in case you do pull a Rebecca and like forget to take your device with you.
To be fair, I never take it off the bike.
Okay, good. So it's
You know
on
what's
the bike,
funny?
you're charging it.
Yeah, that's what I'll do to make sure I know it. If you think about all the Garmin mounts, most mounts now you can reverse the Garmin, so the Garmin logo's upside down, so you can plug in from the backside. So I know that that it's charging, and it reminds me if I get on the bike to jump away, I got to make sure I pull the charger out. So I think that's really good advice.
Yeah, those are great little hacks. But yeah, and take note when you're out in your training rides. Hey, how long does my Garmin last on, you know, full power mode? And I went out for 6 hours or whatever it was. Awesome.
I think the next question is a good one for you. Going back to the last slide, just out of curiosity, what gearing are you using?
Oh, like, what did I use last year? I'm trying to remember. Do you remember, Tim?
I don't, not off the top of my head. I was kind of looking at that question going, I hope Rebecca remembers.
Okay,
What are you
so no,
using
here
now?
normally I run a 32 on the front with Eagle in the back, so it's 1052, and I ran a 26. I do remember that because there was a 28, and I'm like, no, if I'll go smaller, and like never, like I said, never did anybody say I didn't have small enough gears on that hill climb. Never ever did anyone say ever. So yeah, I went from 32 to 26.
And I think next one's a good one for you too. Is there any method you use to choose where to place your aid station? Top of the hill, bottom of the hill, middle?
So I really evaluated on this. My friend Caroline and I, who did the same hill, we both chose opposite. I had my crew at the top. One, because there was a bigger pullout area. And I knew they could camp there. My husband was there, and another friend of mine, they could build a fire. And so I chose that spot because I thought it was more comfortable for them. But also I knew it was quite cold, and I knew on the descents I would be freezing cold. So I wanted to be warm when I got to my aid station so that I could eat quickly, because you cool down so fast. I didn't want to be freezing cold at the bottom, trying to put food in my body and shivering. And so, I was super hot at the top of the climbs. I'd throw on a coat, ride down. And then I had to actually, since I had no aid station at the bottom, I had to literally I was wearing a puffy coat in the middle of the night. I had to tie it around my waist to ride up the hill because I got so sweaty. But I wanted to feel, it depends on where you are. Is there a good parking area? Is it safe for you to leave your car and to pull over? I'd say that's the number one consideration, because honestly, it doesn't really matter. There's no right or wrong answer. Caroline was at the bottom of the hill and she really liked that. Middle might be a little weird just because you're transitioning from going down to going up. I feel like it's maybe the top or the bottom are probably the choices just based on how your body's going to feel. Like the middle of a climb, you're not going to want to stop and get a bunch of calories in. I also chose the top because I knew I wanted to try to really minimize my stop. So I stuff a bunch of food into my mouth at the top because my descent was quite technical. So I wasn't really able to eat on the descent. So I kind of wanted to digest on the descent. So I put a bunch of food in at the top, and then I'd have my hands on the handlebars descending, and it was kind of technical. And really, I couldn't take my hands off the bars except for while I was climbing. So then I had liquid fuels and gels and a little more simple, like Tim said, a little more simple carbohydrates for the climb up. But at the top, I would get in some really sort of legit fueling. So there's no right answer. I'd say go scope out your area and find a safe spot. And there's nothing to be said if you've got friends, they may move from top to bottom. It doesn't matter. But just remember that you've got to carry, what you go down with, you've got to carry up again, unless you have the beauty of 2 aid stations. And that's fine. That there's no rules that way. You could have 2 if you want.
You just need more friends, right?
You need more friends. And I didn't have that many friends.
All right.
Awesome.
This next one's a good one for you also. It'll be interesting to see if we have this answer. Is it illegal to swap bikes if you have a major mechanical failure?
I mean, I love these questions because I get to make the rules, which is kind of awesome since it's my event. And I say, absolutely, it doesn't matter, whatever. I know a friend, Caroline had a second bike that was a mountain bike. She was doing the same gravel hill I was, and she had her mountain bike out there in case halfway through she just wanted suspension and wanted to complete the climb and was just so dead tired. So I don't care if you change bikes, you have a mechanical, you need to ride to, drive to town and get something fixed on your bike. That actually happened to someone last year. They had a mechanical, they put their bike in the car, drove to town, got it fixed, drove back, and continued their ride. You know, the clock doesn't stop if we're going on leaderboards and things like that. But, you know, absolutely. And if you want to have a backup bike there, even, that's great. Or backup set of wheels. Like,
Mhm.
you have the ability to basically set up your own, you know, NASCAR pit station if you want.
You know, it's funny. I had a friend who did it last year in this really tough hill, and he did it on a road bike hill in a road, and he missed getting in the Everest Hall of Fame by about 12 minutes. And I asked him, what was the main thing he didn't make it? He's like, I got this flat, and it took me, and it chewed up my tire, and it took me like 25 minutes to get it changed. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just bring one of your other wheel sets? I know you have like 5. He's like, what? And I was like, dude, you got a flat. He rolled it flat down to his car, but he had bought a pump and tubes and, you know, a patch and all those things. But I'm like, why didn't you just bring more wheels? And he was like, oh, and that cost him his trip to the Everest Hall of Fame. So
Oh, you know,
always
it's funny. It's like people, you know, here's the only rules is that one, you sign up, hopefully you fundraise a little bit, and you choose one hill and you do it over and over again until you're done. If you need to go to town and get a pizza or get a new bike to ride, the time doesn't stop. But yeah, like it is quite open. You can have extra bikes, extra wheels, friends giving you high fives, you know, as long as it's under your own power and it's on one hill and it's in a continuous push, then that's it. And like I said, if you want to choose the, you know, any elevation, choose your own elevation challenge and make it your own, that's okay too. For the leaderboards and for like the Everesting, quarter Everest, half Everest, um, 3/4 Everest, you know, for leaderboard and prizes, we are, I mean, this is an event, we are keeping score. And so make sure that, you know, you're legitimately doing it honestly. But if you're also just like, I just want to ride my bike with friends and I don't care how much I climb, then enter the, you know, choose your own challenge, elevation challenge. But we will be doing leaderboards. So I appreciate you guys asking, you know, what the rules are and what's legit and what's not. But swapping bikes is totally cool. Extra wheels is cool. Whatever you want in your aid station is fine, as long as it's not an e-bike.
got it. All right, we have 2 final questions. I'll take the next one because it's very
Okay.
driven by training. We actually just got one more new one in. Hi, Tim. I have 2 specific training plan questions. One, I'm a little confused about the goal for Sunday's windups, and then everybody can read the question. So, Tina, the windup goal is just use a big gear, whatever's comfortable for you. Anything between 16 and 13 is fine. The reason it has a specific power number is I have to put something in the structured workouts. It's one of the reasons sometimes I hate structured workouts. I need a number. The main focus of the windup is you're basically starting from a stop, excuse me, and you want to get your cadence up to over the goal as fast as you can. So don't worry about power. Don't even look at power. You're trying to get your feet from that slow grind to a very fast pedal in the shortest amount of time. Because think about what's happening at a muscular level and why this improves muscular endurance and strength, force, but not explosiveness. You start out with these slow, very forceful contractions, and then you start going faster and faster and faster and faster. So you're actually taking those muscle fibers through a very change from force to what's known as neuromuscular power. So just focus on spinning, getting a really big gear, the biggest one you can spin up and get up on top of that cadence goal. Don't worry about the power. Number 2, I've been saying don't let cadence drop. You have it right. Whatever your normal self-selected cadence is, don't go out at your normal 85 to 90 and finish at 65 at the end of the ride because you're fatigued. That's such a mental thing. Like as we fatigue, your natural desire, it's a defense mechanism of your body, is that contractile speed is going to want to slow down. And you just have to mentally fight it. Just keep it at your natural selection, because what happens is that it's really going to kill you in your Everest if you build that habit. Because as you begin to use force more, your pedals, you're slowing your cadence, so you're using force, it's going to bring in more muscular fatigue, and you don't want to do that. So just train mentally. And that's why you see it a lot in these type of plans, because I don't want you to do it in your Everest attempt. So make sure that you're just visually thinking about it, and your overall natural selected, not the interval. So hopefully that helps. Okay, here you go, Rebecca. The, uh, how many rest stops did you take last year, and how long did it take you?
Yeah, so and it took me about 23 and a half hours. Tim and I wanted to break 24. That is kind of what we set out. And I'm like, I'm going to break 24, 40 minutes up, like no big deal, So, and I barely broke that, and I barely stopped as well. So I really tried to minimize stops. And so the clock never stops. And this is what I learned in 24-hour racing is as long as you're moving, even if it's slowly, you're moving forward. When you're in your rest stop, you're making zero progress. But that said, you need to take the time to do what you need to do, but be efficient. And so I'm like, got my aid station all organized, the gearboxes, so that it's really quick. And I would say my turnaround at the top of the hill was, a minute or two most times. Grab a new water bottle. They're already prepared. Grab them, throw them in, go. And I took one. I had planned, Tim and I had talked about, I took one about 30 to 40 minute stop in the middle of the night. I was really cold, and I changed into dry clothing. I ate like kind of a meal. I ate some slices of pizza, and that was the longest stop I had, which was maybe half hour, 40 minutes. And the rest of the time it was moving. It was on the bike. And so that's why I say, figure out a way that you can eat on the bike, you can drink on the bike, you can Instagram on the bike, whatever you're going to do. Because even if you're moving 1 mile an hour, you're still moving forward. Whereas if you're in the rest area, you're stopped. So take the time you need, but be really efficient with it, because it really is a black hole. And I used to have in 24-hour racing, I had a rule, and I did this in Everesting last year, is that I don't sit down in a chair. No chairs allowed, because once you sit down, it's really hard to get back up again. And I can tell you, last year it was so cold, and my husband had a fire going, and like I'd warm up by the fire, but I wouldn't sit in one of the camp chairs, because I'm like, okay, I'm going to warm up, I'm going to eat some food, and I'm going to go. And just kind of remember the parties at the finish line with your goo recovery drink and your Sierra Nevada. And in those moments where like you really want to take your time and stop and slow down, I always think that someone told me a quote one time when I did my very first eco challenge, 7-day race through Australia. He said, look, you can run across the hot coals or you can walk across the hot coals. It's your choice. And so be efficient, get it done so that you can party at the finish line. Like take the time that you need. But aid stations are a black hole, and it takes a lot of discipline, and educate your partner, your support person who's there to be like, don't let me sit down. I would say that to my crew in 24-hour racing. I'm not going to sit down unless I'm like crying or throwing up or whatever. You have to kind of put some discipline on yourself, and hopefully none of you are going to be doing that. But it takes discipline to just get back on the bike and roll slowly, learn how to eat on the bike, learn how to do what you need to do on the bike, and do it while you're moving. And Michelle asked, can you vary the route after you start? You're supposed to be on the same hill, repeat the same hill, top to bottom. Tim, that said, though, if somebody decides I'm only going to go 3/4 of the way up next time, I mean, you're still getting the elevation. Like, would it still calculate?
Yes, it would still
Yeah.
calculate, but you must remain on the same route according to.
Right. So you're not going to like drive across town, get another hill, and do that hill for a little while. So stay on the same hill, but I think you can, if you decide you don't want to go all the way to the top, or you like a certain section, I think you can hone in there, right?
Yep.
Okay.
You can certainly
Cool.
just do that same section, but you do need to be on the same route. That's the Everesting rules.
Awesome. Okay, we are done with questions. We're over time. And so I'm going to wrap it up. Just reminders, we've got Instagram live this Wednesday. We've got refer a friend, and you can win some goodies. And Tim is going to help us choose 2 sets of Max's tires right now. And I also want to remind you guys, use the hashtag for us, Giddy Up For Good, because we are doing some other giveaways. We're doing some other fun stuff. We're 3.5 weeks out. We're in this together. I'm really stoked on the training, and mostly I'm really excited that you're all joining me. And so my goal is to get your friends involved. We're going to ramp up our fundraising, and we are going to give you some prizes right now. So Tim, can you do the honors Vanna White or whatever and draw 2 names for us right now?
Got it. I used a random number selection based on the way that number you were in the attendee list.
Okay.
So generally random but the list is alphabetical. So 13 and 20 were winners. 13 was Jill Hamilton Bradley. Woohoo! You were winner. And Monique Ray was number 20. So there's your 2 winners.
Okay, so Jill and Monique, we are going to, if you could actually in the chat, type your email to Tim, and we'll capture that real quickly. And we will reach out and get you your Maxxis Rambler tires. And for the rest of you, thank you for joining. Coach Tim, thank you for your amazing brain and your science, and to all of our partners. And mostly thanks to everyone who's joining us and who's part of this challenge. We do it because we love to share, and we're so stoked for this adventure with you. Giddy up for good. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Rebecca, where can they email their address to you just in case I don't get it in time?
Okay, if it doesn't happen in the chat, those 2 lucky winners, Jill and who else was it?
Monique Ray.
Jill and Monique, join the rush at RebeccaRusch.com. For all you others, don't email us and say, yeah, I won, because we have the names. We'll know if you're lying. And yeah, thank you all for joining, and we will see you for the next Science in Stoke.
Awesome.
Good.
Got it. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.